in order for you to feel anything or have any sensation or to move, your brain needs a way to communicate with your body in both directions, brain and body. And the way that it does that is through neurons. And they are sort of the wiring of your body. They transmit signals from your brain and body, and also it doesn't have to go all the way to your brain, but I'll get to that. The way a neuron is sort of structured is on one end. I'll try to draw sort of well. It has these little tendrils that come off, and they are sort of the receptors. So these are called the dendrites. Dendrites is these things, which that's the worst drawn one. They don't look so much like a thumb, but more like little branchy things coming off, trying to feel for things. And they can either feel things directly, like pressure or whatever, or they could be attached to another neuron, and so that they can kind of relay things all the way to your brain. And this whole little hand-shaped apparatus is just called the body, or soma. Soma is Latin or something for body. And this is also where the nucleus is held. The nucleus is in the soma of a neuron. And then there's this long part. And this can be anywhere from a couple inches to several feet if it's going from from the bottom of your foot all the way to the bottom of your spinal column. It could be pretty long. And this part is called the axon. I meant to get not purple, but that's okay. So this whole long stretch is called the axon, and it's covered periodically in little insulating things that keep the electrical potential from crossing the barrier to the inside. And the middle parts are called nodes of Ranvier. I don't know if there's an I. Ranvier. And these parts, well, I guess all of them kind of combined, the entire set of these insulators is called the myelin sheath. So like a sheath on a sword, it holds it and protects it from interference with other electricity in your body, or electrical impulses, I guess. So they insulate it from each other, and it also allows the action potential to travel down. Action potential. So the way that these work is they kind of pump, I think it's positive on the outside and negative on the inside, and they keep this in kind of a high energy state, and then eventually when they get excited enough down here by either other neurons or by rods and cones or whatever, when they get excited enough, the whole thing can kind of flood down, and it's all or none. You can't have like half a stimulation. It's either on or off. On or off. There's no in between. So they get a little bit of stimulation up here, it floods down, the action potential follows all the way down, and then it gets to the other end where it has terminal buttons, which do kind of look more like fingers or something. They kind of have a knob at the end. And I'll just use blue. Terminal buttons. Okay, and so this is a basic overview of what neurons look like, and they are just the smallest unit of the nervous system. The entire thing is made up of different versions of these. This is sort of the standard version, but there are variants. And let's see how they are organized. There's your brain at the top of the nervous system, or the top of your body at least. And then you have your spinal cord. I'm just drawing a person in front view, or a nervous system X-ray, and that goes down to where your hips are, roughly. And this much, I'll box this off. This much, your brain and your spinal cord is your central nervous system. And then all the rest of the stuff that branches off of here to your arms, and it branches and it comes down your arm and down to your legs also. All the rest of it is the peripheral. Peripheral. So it kind of sounds like I don't think I spelled it right, but like peripheral vision. It's on the sides. So central is right in the center of your body, and peripheral is all the extra stuff. So that's the easy way to remember it, that just in the center of your body is central. But also, this is more the decision-making part. Your brain is obviously a decision maker, but also, if you put your hand on a hot stove, the stimulation goes up to here, to your spinal cord, and then it goes right back down to tell your arm to move. It doesn't go all the way to your brain. So your spinal cord actually makes really simple decisions like that. And another thing that we should point out is the difference between neurons going to your brain and neurons coming away from your brain. Like we have veins and nerves, right? Or veins and arteries, which are really the same thing, but it's just saying whether they're coming away or going toward the heart or going away from the heart. The same thing for neurons in the brain. We have afferent neurons, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, I think, and those are the ones going toward the brain. So if you stub your toe, the signal goes this way, and it goes through afferent neurons. And then when your brain sends signal to your leg or to your mouth to say words, like ouch, that would be efferent. It's almost the same word, efferent. And they're similar words, but the way I've found to remember it is that this has the word effer and also a T, so it's like effort. In order to move your arm or something, it takes an effort, and it takes an efferent neuron for your brain to tell the nerve what to do. I guess I can fill out my man a little. Well, we can... Okay, I know. We'll talk about the absolute threshold and just noticeable difference. So absolute threshold. Okay, and this is just the smallest stimulation that you can actually feel or hear. Like I think for touch, the absolute threshold is a bee's wing dropped from 1 centimeter onto your cheek, which is very specific, but it's a measure in very weird units, I guess, of a bee's wing and stuff. But it's a measure of the smallest stimulation that you can feel. And maybe maybe a candle from, I think, it's pretty far. I think it's 20 miles away or 12 miles away. On a clear night, you can see a candle, and that's your absolute threshold for vision. And I don't know, there's other ones that you can look up, but in general terms, it's just the smallest or the least amount of stimulation that actually reaches your brain, that will actually set off this all or none principle all the way to your brain. And then similarly, I think they tend to get mixed up, is just noticeable difference. Noticeable difference. And this is if you already have a lot of stimulation. What is... I'm having trouble not using these words. If you already... Let's say if you're already lifting 50 pounds of weight, and then someone puts on a feather, are you going to notice it? Probably not. But if you're carrying 50 pounds and someone puts on another 12 pounds, then you'll probably notice it. That's not 121B, it's 12 pounds. So if the volume of your TV is already at 30 and someone, turns it up to 31, if you don't see the little icon on the screen telling you it goes to 31, you probably wouldn't notice. But then if, we'll say you have it at 30 and someone tells you to turn it down, you might you might sneakily turn it down to 29, and then they'll say, you didn't turn it down at all, I didn't notice any difference. And that's what that means. And some of this is quantifiable. I know one of the things is Weber's law, which I think it's a mathematical kind of formula, and I think it's the weight one. I'm not really sure. I didn't look it up ahead of time. But Weber's law is definitely related to this. And this is, I should say, just noticeable difference is J and D. They tend to abbreviate that, so if you see J and D, don't get confused. You know what this is. And I think that's all. I mean, that's just a basic overview of the nervous system, but that's, for psychology, that's a pretty good terminology, at least, under your belt.